The next two D&D booster sets from WizKids are tailored to particular types of environments, which is great. If you're running a campaign in those types of settings, then you're probably going to be able to use almost every single mini in your stories. They aren't tied to particular adventures or planes of existence like Theros or Ravnica or Dragonlance. No, these are pretty generic Forgotten Realms creatures. So if you're homebrewing a story in the Forgotten Realms setting, you're in luck. And they seem to be focusing mostly on monsters without a lot of PC minis, which is probably also good for a lot of us game masters. The first set, the one we're reviewing today, is Sand and Stone, so monsters you might find in the desert or other arid areas. And most of the minis do stick to that theme. Today we're reviewing all the minis in the booster set, and we were provided a so-called factory set by WizKids, which has one of every mini. And many thanks, as always, to WizKids for that. So get yourself something to hydrate with, as we have a long journey through Sand and Stone. Before we jump in, we are in the final hours of the Dungeons & Lasers World of Deuslair campaign. Now is the time to jump in and see all the free stretch goals that they've unlocked and secure your own pledge. We are closing in on 50 extra minis that you can get with your pledge, including a giant kraken, a flying airship, a mimic dragon, a mimic grandfather clock with a matching clock mini, a big old wolf drake, and Chaos the Soul Harvester, which I will just let you see for yourself, plus dozens more. This is one of the best mini deals you are going to find out there, but your time is running out. I go over the entire campaign for you in a video that you can watch in the corner of your screen up there right now. They have modular warbands where you can mix and match parts to make just the creatures you want. They have their own included bestiary and 5e campaign, so you can add new monsters to your adventures with their minis if your gaming group is tired of fighting the same old creatures in every adventure. Check out everything the World of Deuslair has to offer before it's too late. You only have a few hours left. You can use the link in the corner of the screen up there or in the doohickey down below to see the campaign. The hardest part is choosing which of the many add-on sets you want to get. Let me know what you decide in the comment section down below. I'm planning to pick up of Sea and Thunder and the White Eyes Dunes, which synergizes perfectly with the Sand and Stone sets we're going to review today. So let me know your picks. That is Dungeons & Lasers, the World of Deuslair on Kickstarter now. Starting off with a mini that would look right at home in a Starfinder battle set, this is Violet Fungus, a rare basic rules creature that we haven't seen a lot of minis from. They grow in the Underdark and walk very slowly on their little tendrils to find fresh prey. Anything they kill decomposes quickly and sprouts new purple fungi in a couple of days. These cute but grumpy earth elementals have a few unique abilities that make them excellent guardians. They can animate rocks and boulders nearby for support. They're imbued with more intelligence than most elementals, making them better able to assess threats and strategize. They can fold in on themselves to look like an irregular boulder, and they don't age. So they're frequently summoned by druids and mages to guard important locations. Priests of Osybus are very evil necromancers who steal souls to power their magic given to them by the dark powers. Their goal is to free Strahd from his prison in the mists. Priests of Osybus are fun because when they reach 0 hit points, either during or before a battle, they can be endowed with one of 6 boons of undeath, with names like Dread and Ectoplasmic and Vampiric. This is a straight-up hyena out of the basic rules. Previously, we had an unpainted pack of hyenas in the Deep Cuts line from WizKids, and one in the Pathfinder Ruins of Lastwall set, but I think this is the first Icons of the Realms hyena. Animal minis are always useful for random encounters, wild shape options, and summon animal spells, but hyenas are especially useful as they often travel with gnolls. So these can definitely be added to your gnoll warbands to shake things up a little bit. Mephits are little pesky elementals. They come in a variety of forms. The Dust Mephit likes to hang around in catacombs because they're little goths at heart, morbidly obsessed with death. They're made entirely of dirt and air, so not overly dangerous, but they can blind you and they can put you to sleep like any good Sandman. Here we get a basic mummy, and since it has thin legs, it's gonna require a little bit of reshaping. If you're new to reshaping, just put it under a little bit of hot tap water, reshape it, and then dunk it into ice water to set. Repeat if necessary. WizKids has a new Undead Armies warband line that so far features skeletons and zombies, and I do wonder if mummies might make the cut as well eventually. Let me see those gnome mummies. If you want to ruin a dwarf crafter's day, introduce them to a rust monster in the Underdark. They're able to quickly corrode ferrous metals and then eat up the resulting rust. Higher level characters with magic weapons and armor don't really have to worry about it very much, but a low level hero on a budget could really have their day ruined if their shiny new plate armor and longsword get destroyed. We get a couple of dinosaur-like creatures in this set, which is fun. The Dimetrodon lives and hunts on shores near shallow water, generally wherever you might find a crocodile. I say dinosaur-like because, in our world at least, Dimetrodons weren't dinosaurs. They went extinct 40 million years before the first dino showed up. In actuality, they're more closely related to mammals than modern reptiles. Note that this mini has been upsized to large, but his real medium size is denoted by the circle on his base. You don't see common large minis in booster sets very often. While we don't have a shortage of Yuan-Ti minis, we don't have many Broodguards, just one in the Tomb of Annihilation set, I believe. The Broodguards are basically the transformed, relatively unintelligent minions of the Yuan-Ti. They follow orders and they hate anything without scales. They're usually created from captured humanoids. Once the process has begun, you have 1d6 plus 6 days to find a way to reverse the process. Long ago, the Raven Queen got revenge on a group of 13 power-hungry meddling wizards by turning them into these scabby birds called Nagpas, all of whom are still alive. They're cursed to only be able to acquire new lore and arcane power from fallen civilizations and calamities. So they now hide in the shadows, plotting ways to bring civilizations crashing down. Real fun bad guys with a CR of 17. These chitin-covered drake insect hybrids were created by an ancient tiefling empire as a living siege weapon. They now lurk in the Underdark and, yes, sometimes in the desert and mountains. They're not intelligent, they just operate by animalistic instinct, tracking prey, digging tunnels toward sources of heat, and laying eggs. If you hear a lot of hisses and chittering noises up ahead, look out. Flying snakes, which are naturally found in jungles, deserts, and grasslands, are often domesticated and used as messengers, much like homing pigeons. And they do fly with wings, unlike our real-world flying snakes, which glide through the air for a couple of seconds. Flying snakes are typically associated with the Zentarum. Pteranodons resemble larger, toothless pterodactyls. They're again not technically dinosaurs, but closely related. For our D&D purposes, they bite with their beaks and have the flyby ability. They're also fairly popular companions for the Beastmaster Ranger. Here's an old favorite, the Basilisk, one of our better Basilisk minis. I'm always surprised that they're medium-sized creatures, though it seems like they should be bigger. Of course, they are famous for their petrifying gaze. One of the earliest accounts of the Basilisk in our world comes from Rome's Pliny the Elder's Natural History, written in roughly 79 AD. Next up is another Thri-Kreen mini. On the one hand, we have a lot of basic Thri-Kreen minis at this point, but I also wouldn't terribly mind seeing a Thri-Kreen warband with some variety in the design. We do have a number of different Thri-Kreen stat blocks out now with Spelljammer. If you're looking to put your Thri-Kreen minis to work, check out the adventure Orchids of the Invisible Mountain and Radiant Citadel. I love me a good, chunky, medium-sized mini. These are earth elementals who are conjured into and bound by a set of ritually created plate armor. They are tougher than your average elemental, which may have something to do with that big maul which deals thunder damage and knocks foes prone. Here we have another Priest of Osybus mini, and one of the most striking minis in the set. This one definitely seems like an undead variety, perhaps a dread priest who's followed around by whispers, or a deathly priest with pale skin and the ability to animate the dead. You can get all the spooky details in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. So, yeah, this wasn't perhaps the best choice for a mini. A swarm of beetles. I don't know how you can make a swarm of beetles mini look good, but this really isn't doing it for me. I guess you could use it to mark a grease spell location, though that technically covers a 10-foot square. I guess you could just put this mini at the center of 4 squares to denote the location. Alright, here's a better swarm, though it gives me the creeps a little bit. I'm not a big fan of wasps, but hey, if you want an encounter that's gonna freak your players out, swarm their characters with wasps. I still think these insect swarms should be straight up immune to piercing and slashing damage. Imagine trying to fight off a swarm of wasps with a rapier. Alright, this guy brings back some memories to me. In the early days of the channel, I used to have a set of were creatures who were part of an unofficial gallant goblin adventuring party. They showed up in almost every video. I should really bring them back. Wereboars are supposedly ill-tempered and vulgar brutes, though I never quite understood why were creatures of a certain type should all have similar personality traits. Also, let's get some non-human were creature minis up in this place. Death dogs have nothing to do with undeath. They are just vicious, hateful dogs who have two heads for some reason. They wander the desert and bite anything with humanoid flesh, potentially passing along a fatal disease. Another reminder that you really should be bringing along a cleric anytime you leave the house. Jackalweres have nothing to do with lycanthropy, though you can use this figure as a were-jackal as well. No, these are ordinary jackals who were touched by the demon lord Grost and bestowed the gift of speech and the ability to assume humanoid forms. They were born to lie, and actually wince in pain anytime they have to tell the truth. And like my middle school chemistry teacher, they can put you to sleep with their gaze. Yup, it's a giant scorpion. It has a sting that can poison you. One thing to note is that Tomb of Annihilation includes a suit of scorpion plate armor that you can craft from giant scorpion chitin. It's pretty dope, actually. You get +5 to initiative rolls, it doesn't affect your stealth rolls, and it doesn't impose disadvantage on your rolls to resist the effects of extreme heat. Although it does potentially cause you 100 points of poison damage every time you put it on or take it off, which is bad. This is one of my favorites in the set. I love this mini. Djinn are genies from the elemental plane of air. They rule from islands of cloud stuff with pavilions, courtyards, fountains, gardens, and boba shops on every corner. They're considered mischievous if generally benevolent. Get it? Generally? Alright. Another classic and a fun boss fight for a level 3 or 4 party. These land sharks will teach the party about burrowing monsters, and they have the dramatic deadly leap ability. It can burrow underground and then leap out of the ground, pouncing on unsuspecting foes, knocking them prone, and doing a decent chunk of damage. Sadly, it's probably not intelligent enough to target those pesky backline casters though. I believe this might be our first D&D Lamia mini, though we did have one in Pathfinder Battles Rise of the Rune Lords in the before times. These evil would-be monarchs take up residence in ruined desert cities and forgotten tombs, and then order jackalweres around to do their bidding. They're sometimes called Tyrants of Pleasure, which seems alright to me. There's an interesting Jackalwere Lamia adventure in Candlekeep Mysteries called Mazfroth's Mighty Digressions. They also show up in Theros and Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Very appropriate mini for a set like this. It's interesting that it's on the ground rather than flying, though I guess that's not an unusual place to come across a vulture. Giant vultures are rather more intelligent and sadistic than normal vultures, following doomed adventurers as they cross the desert, enjoying their suffering and ready to put them out of their misery. Alright, I feel a little bit bad for this poor Efreeti with his floppy rubber sword. It is hard getting around things like this when you're making minis out of soft plastic though. Otherwise, it is a pretty nice figure. Efreeti are the genies of the elemental plane of fire, the counterparts to the Djinn from earlier. They're just as haughty, get it? Okay. Just as haughty as the Djinn, but rather more cruel and vengeful. Nagas, as you might know, are intelligent serpents who lurk in abandoned ruins, collecting arcane treasures and secret knowledge. Spirit Nagas share a hobby with the Efreeti, plotting revenge against those that cross them. Oh, and enslaving people. It's good to have a hobby. They'll dominate foes and then sink their teeth into them. You can't really have a good desert adventure without some camels. Though you really need more than just one. This would have been nice as a common mini. Though a desert caravan encounter pack or adventure in a box kind of sounds like a fun idea. And we don't actually have many desert-based 5e published adventures, which is a little bit of a shame now that we have this booster set. Before we jump into our rare creatures, let me remind you to check out the deck of mini animated spell cards from our sponsor Hit Point Press. These tarot-sized animated cards make being a caster in a 5e game about 93% more fun and convenient. You can put the card you're concentrating on the table in front of you to remind you to roll that save the next time you get hit. And you'll have all the spells at your fingertips so you can plan your turn without having to consult your computer or your character sheet. You can get bundles of lower level spells and higher level spells at a discount right now. I recommend going in as a gaming group to pick up decks together, as you can also get animated townsfolk cards for those folks you meet along the way, animated in-game magic items like the Deck of Illusions and the Deck of Many Things. You can get animated condition cards to keep track of who's exhausted, who's grappled, and who's blinded. They also make fantastic gifts for the game master or the spellcaster in your life. Check them out at the links down below or at animatedspells.com. If the were-rats that we reviewed recently drew the short straw in the were-creature game, I think the were-tigers came out on top. Who doesn't want to be able to turn into a humanoid tiger? They're just so cool. Though this one does appear to be spanking himself in the face with a scimitar. Scimitars in general aren't faring well in this set, but you can straighten them out with that hot water trick from earlier, and since it isn't a Rakshasa, we don't have to take a magnifying glass to his hands. We don't have a lot of PC minis in this set, but I will never turn away a good Dragonborn mini, and this is a good Dragonborn mini. Even his scimitar looks good, and I love that shield too. Blue Dragonborn will have a lightning breath weapon, lightning resistance, and at 5th level, they can even become immune to lightning damage for a short time. I've always been a little bit bugged by the fact that these are called Medusas and not Gorgons. And Gorgons in D&D are metallic bulls because they're based off of Libyan mythology, while the Medusas, what should be the Gorgons, are based on Greek mythology. So yeah, this is what you get when you pull from mythology from all around the world. It is fine, it is great, but it can be a little bit confusing. Hey, it's another Kruthik. The young and adult varieties do have separate stat blocks. The adult is larger, medium in size, and it's a good bit tougher. Young Kruthiks become adults after about 6 months of life, and their lifespan is about 7 years. I don't think they've actually shown up in any published 5e adventures yet. So I dislike Harpies almost as much as I dislike gnolls. Just look at those feet. Though I'm not sure why this one is a rare, as at least in my mind, Harpies stick together in a flock. They're just CR1 creatures, so throwing one against an adventuring party isn't really going to be much of a challenge, though they do actually have the ability to incapacitate foes with a song. Not a bad Bone Knight mini here, though we're stuck again with the floppy sword syndrome. This one is another entry from left field though, as Bone Knights are from the Eberron setting. They're the champions of the Order of the Emerald Claw, though you could use this mini as a Death Knight, or just as a gothy looking regular knight, or a fallen paladin if you like. Another very cool Dragonborn mini. We need a Dragonborn warband. Come on, WizKids. Actually, we need warbands of all the minor playable races. I would get a gnome, or a halfling, or a tiefling, or especially a Lakatha warband. Where the blue Dragonborn had those lightning-based abilities, Brass Dragonborn will have the same ones, just with fire instead of lightning. Storm King's Thunder had a whopping 3 Yuan-Ti Malison minis. They differ in what parts of their body are snake-like: head, tail, or arms. This is obviously the snakehead variety, or as the Monster Manual creatively calls them, Type Number 1. They belong to the middle caste of the Yuan-Ti society and often work as hunters. Of the 3 types, this one is generally the best kisser. I said what I said. Next up is a Mummy Lord, which makes sense for this set, though we did have a perfectly good Mummy Lord not that long ago in the Boneyard set. A Mummy Lord is very much a boss creature at the end of your temple run. It has lair actions, legendary actions, 6th level spells, and magic resistance. And of course, it can hand out mummy rot with a hit. Hey, it's our first proper dinosaur. Who knew so many dinosaur-looking things weren't actually dinosaurs? And this one is actually a bit of a challenge with a CR of 5, and it's quite a well-armored and well-armed beast for an herbivore. A lot of larger icons of the realms of minis like this could do with a little bit of dry brushing to bring out some of the texture on their bodies. Another possible boss encounter for your temple dives is an Androsphinx, which is also a legendary creature, but decidedly less evil than your run-of-the-mill mummy lords, so your adventurers may be able to talk their way out of this encounter. This is a large size mini on a huge size base. I'm good with upsizing a powerful creature like this, that's fine. There's no Gynosphinx love in this set though. If you are looking for one of those, check out Monster Menagerie 2 and Deadly Foes. We're definitely due for a new one, I think. Also upsized in this collection is the Chimera, the weird amalgamation of a lion and a dragon and a goat. Goat always just seemed to be a little bit of an outlier there. I just picture the dragon head and the lion head fighting fiercely while the goat head eats some nearby trash. If you were building a chimera, what would your third animal head be? I vote kangaroo. Anyway, we just recently got a new chimera in the alphabetically named Classic Collection set, and we have a few other chimera from older sets. Here you can see them all together. And let's just pull those two new ones up here so you can get a better look. Which one do you prefer? I think I like the Classic Collection one a little bit better. Finally, we have the epically named Gorthok the Thunderboar. This is a very specific mini for the capstone slot. It's actually from Dragon of Icespire Peak. Gorthok is a primal nature spirit in the form of a boar the size of an elephant with lightning, and not as I initially suspected, snot running down its tusks and body. It serves the will of Talos, god of god of storms. And yes, it is quite evil. Now, this is a utilitarian set. It's not particularly flashy. There aren't any modular figures, no dragon riders this time around. Most of the figures here are pulled from the basic rules of the game, both classic creatures like the Chimera and the Bulette, and more obscure ones like the purple fungus and the flying snake. There are some that I think you could tell some very interesting stories with, like the priests of Osybus and the Nagpa, the Jackalwere and the Lamia, and even the Thunderboar. There are a few just really solid minis like the Dragonborn, the Djinni, and the Myrmidon. I think if you're running a campaign in an arid setting and you don't already have a lot of these minis, this set is a good one to start with. If you've already got a ton of Yuan-Ti and Thri-Kreen and chimeras and mummies and the like, then this set you can probably just pick and choose singles from on the aftermarket. We don't actually have a lot of published 5e adventures that focus on the desert. Storm King's Thunder is a massive sandbox, with the conclusion taking place in the desert, but perhaps the most desert-focused thing we have in 5e right now is Har-Akir, the desert domain in Ravenloft where the ancient dead still dwell. I'm going to post a very useful link for Har-Akir in the doohickey down below me. If you have Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, you'll have a whole chapter on the domain, but at the D&D Beyond link down below, you'll also have a ton of useful content for running stories there, including adventure hooks, and even encounter tables, using some of the creatures on the table here, including the Kruthiks and the Nagpa. There's also an adventure for 15th level characters in the Candlekeep Mysteries called Alcazar's Appendix, which is set in a desert. And of course there's also the old Dark Sun setting, though that one hasn't been brought to 5th edition yet, and I doubt it ever will be. Another option though is the classic Desert of Desolation series of modules, which has a 5e conversion guide on DM's Guild, and I'll put that link down below me as well. You could also use these minis in a Pathfinder game set in the Osirian Desert, and there are several Pathfinder Society missions available there to get you started. If you have any other suggestions for some desert-themed adventures, please let me know down in the comments below. I mentioned at the top of this video that the next Icons of the Realms booster set is also focused on a particular type of environment. It's called Sea and Shore, and it'll feature minis such as Sahuagin, Merfolk, Scum, Lokatha, hell yeah, and the Maw of Sekula from the Ghost of Saltmarsh. We'll see how this set stands up to the old Pathfinder Battle Skull and Shackles set, which is still one of my favorites of all time. Expect Sea and Shore in late summer, early fall. Sand and Stone here is available now. Let me know what you think about it in the comments section down below, and don't forget to back the world of Deuslair before it's too late. Just the best way to get beautiful, high-quality, unpainted minis for not a ton of money, and get yourself some animated spell cards to liven up all your 5e games at animatedspells.com. Alright, we're going to have a full review of the Sand and Stone Premium figure, the Wyvern, in the next couple of days, so be sure you're subscribed to see that. If you've got your eye on our little cuddly kobolds over here, you can pick some up for yourself at koboldplush.com. They are shipping now. And you can come follow me on all the social media apps, including Stoneface, Rakshasadon, Oasis Place, and Meerkat. For now, though, stay safe, have fun, love each other, and I will see you next time at the Gallant Goblin.